So if you've been driving down Highway 12 near Rio Vista or over the Altamont Pass, you've seen these wind farms, and they're the tall propeller type turbines. And there are hundreds of these turbines in these wind farms. And you'll have noticed how tall they are and how spread out they are. And there are $1 trillion worth of these wind farms around the world, and they're expected to quadruple in sales over the next decade or two. So it's an enormous market, and it's fast growing, and it's critical to reversing global warming. Beneath these turbines, there is a layer of wind that no other technology can use because it's too turbulent. And that is where wind harvest turbines come in to play. It's a long story of how we got here. It started with me meeting this founder, George Wagner, on the banks of the Stanislaus River when I was a river guide. It led to me investing in the company in 1990 and trading my shares for company, my company's time for shares in the company in 1990 and in the year 2000. And they asked me to be the CEO in 2006 and form Wind Harvest International, and I did. And I've been working pretty much full time from since then. And in the next 14 years, we, did our Series A round. We survived the deaths of our founders. There's a lot of changes that happened. And we eventually got here today where we are 1 year away from finalizing the commercialization of our wind farm scale turbines. And I'm happy to tell you about some of the stories, like how the Prince Charles led us to a property in Wales and our involvement with Enron, but I'll leave that for another day. The next slide is this near ground wind resource isn't everywhere. It's only in about 20% of wind farms. They're on ridge lines, they're in mountain passes. This turbulence that causes these tall turbines to shake, and they have to be raised up out of the surface of the near ground wind, and they have to be far apart from one another. And this leaves the opportunity for a different kind of turbine, a vertical axis turbine in which the blades are connected to the central shaft by 2 points. And these blades, these turbines like ours, can handle this turbulence. They do very well in near ground turbulence. And they're short, and they can go right underneath the tall turbines without causing a problem for the tall turbines. There is no competition yet into this commercial space. The companies we follow, they are still in the prototyping scale stage. They have not made a full scale prototype like we have. They don't have a validated aeroelastic models. We have talked to the big companies like Vestas, and they're saying as soon as you prove that this market is available, we're going to be very interested in buying you and moving into this space. But they're too focused on offshore wind turbines to invest in the space themselves. Our key to the success is this long, steady process of technology development, of prototyping, of learning, of relearning, of bringing in new engineers, of validating models, of making great leaps forward. And now we have this wind harvester turbine where we're ready to go through the pilot project step, which is step 7 in the technology readiness levels. That's version 3.1 in Denmark. And then version 3.2 is going to be follow at the end of next year. That all is going to be done by our existing management team. We're well prepared to do this next year of work. Where we are, and part of the year of work is developing projects that will buy our turbines in 2021 and 2022. And for that, we have these excellent partners like Altaterra Energies and Clean Energy Holdings and others that are helping develop the projects that will buy our turbines. But we will be bringing in new executives with our Series B round because we want to go through an IPO. We want to be $1 billion company, and we don't have the executives and management team to do that. So that is where we expect to really build up our team of executives with our Series B round, and they're going to want to know who these executives are. Our business model is to not deal with the manufacturing, but oversee manufacturing quality control, but not own our own factories, subcontract all the component development to others, And there's a lot of competition out there to provide supplies for us, to work with wind farms directly to develop pilot projects that lead to large-scale build-outs on their wind farms, make use of their existing infrastructure, their existing roads, their existing transmission lines. We also have patents that are coming in and that will save about $20,000 per turbine or more for our type of turbines with foundations and other things. And we think that there'll be a market to license our patents to people who want to get into this near ground space quickly. It's such an enormous space with $500 billion in existing market that there's no way any one company can take it all. But licensing our patents is maybe a good way to rapidly develop the resource and maybe even make more money than we make on the sale and the margin on our sales and on our services that would come with the sale of our turbines. The big milestones that we're moving forward is this certification and pilot project step in 2021, our Series B investors, and then the sale of these to our projects that we have in development in 2022. Then we have more projects in development for 2023, where we expect to sell somewhere around $50+ million in turbines. And then that leads to finally banks saying, all right, we'll finance your projects using collateral, your turbines as collateral. When we hit that stage, then we can have massive growth. And that's when we would like to launch an IPO. The kinds of projects we have are, for example, this upper left is this ridge line in Wyoming, Simpson Ridge. We have a 4-turbine pilot project almost through permitting and power purchase agreement with a local utility there. The developers want to put in 400 of our turbines in the understory of their wind farm in around 2023. On this upper right-hand one is a pilot project down in Solano County that could lead to a development of somewhere, 1,000 to even 4,000 megawatts of near-ground turbines around the Rio Vista area in southern Solano County. It could lead to manufacturing in the region. It's an enormous resource that no more tall turbines can go into. On the last slide, I'm not going to show them all, but this bottom right one is Barbados. There is a lot of islands that that have good near-ground trade winds, but they can't bring the tall turbines in very easily, and they need to go to 100% renewable. And our turbines work very well with agriculture there, and there's a very big interest in our technology in places like Barbados. And then this leads to these financial projections, which they're kind of slow in the beginning, mostly funded by our own capital, but eventually we think that there is an ability to do a 3x increase in sales each year because the market is so enormous. You go from a 5 megawatt pilot project to a 100 megawatt build out of the entire wind farm. That's the kind of scale that each wind farm can operate at. And this is why we think we can be $1 billion company in the year 2025, 2024. So that is, I can go into the financial projections. We basically make a margin on the sale, anywhere from 10 to 20% on a margin on a sale. When you're talking a $100 million sale, that's a $10 million margin if you're only getting 10%. It's a large amount of income from very large sales. The offering we have is we are moved forward on a crowdfunding because we gave up on trying to get a fair deal from venture capitalists and others for what we need to do. They want to see revenue, and we're still a year away from revenue. So we've started a crowdfunding campaign. We've raised $250,000 so far, and I think we'll hit our $600,000 raised in the next couple of weeks. That is through a new company we set up called Wind Harvest Pilot Project. They raise the capital with notes, 7-year notes that get 8 to 10% interest. And then our shareholders voted to provide 6,400 shares for each $1,000 invested. So they have an equity upside as well. And we'll be raising this $3 million over the next 6 months or so. And we have a lead investor sweetener as well that we're glad to tell you about. And that is the end of my slide deck. And I'm happy to answer questions and tell you anything else you want to know.